We are live. We are live.
What's up? What's up?
I'm just going to quickly make sure that everything's good to go. But I think we're good. Yeah, we're good.
All right, man.
But yeah.
So here we are.
Yeah, you lead us off, Chris.
Okay, well, thanks everybody for tuning in. This is the inaugural Lunchtime Decolonization with Curtis and Chris, and we're here. We're going to be talking about Indigenous education, Indigenous knowledge, and just some basic. This is the introductory. We hope to bring in guests and do some talking and do some really cool things. As you may or may not know, my name is Chris Scribe. I'm Nakota Cree, currently live in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. I'm from the Norway House Cree Nation, northern Manitoba, as well as Carry the Kettle in Regina. And I grew up in Treaty 6 territory in the Palmaker Cree Nation. So that's just the quick excerpt of who I am. And Curtis, you want to go?
Sure, yeah. My name is Curtis Vinish. I was born and raised in Saskatoon. My family is from the Batoche, Duck Lake, and Beardies area. I'm the unique hybrid mix of Métis and Filipino. And actually, about a month ago, before this COVID went down, I was talking to one of my relatives, and she made a funny joke, and she was like, she's like, you're not Métis and Filipino. You're just a flippin' Indian. So it's funny because she took Filipino, the flip, and then the Métis, and then just left the Indian. So I thought that was pretty clever. But yeah, I thought that was pretty clever.
Yeah, man. I mean, that goes to, one really cool thing about Indigenous people around the world is that we are now in our lives and where we are in terms of our reality is that we're such a mixture of different cultures. We're such a mixture of all these different cultures and backgrounds that we have and that we possess in our lives. It really brings a really interesting and powerful perspective. Myself too, aside from being Dakota and Cree, I got Polish relatives, I got Scottish relatives, that go back. And Norway House, my territory in northern Manitoba was a hub for so many Scottish fur traders that came over. So there's a lot of Scottish Métis that exist up there. It's a really strong Métis community up there. So all of those different things shape who we are. So really glad to work with Curtis Vinish. So Tanshe Kiawao, Komusta ka, and all of the, that's as far as I go for some Filipino language. But I think what we're going to do now is I think we just talk, I want to announce our winners for our contest that happened on Monday. I got the emails, I got the people that are here. I think we'll do that at the end. But I just wanted to and maybe we'll take turns on this, but just, Curtis, you're a fresh educator into this professional education kind of system. I'm a little bit longer in the tooth, been in the education game for a little while, but when you come out of school, you're fired up, you're ready to do work, you're ready to do some amazing things. Can you just talk about your background, why it was important for you to be in education, why it was important for you to just kind of, step in here and do this work for kids?
Yeah, so my passion really comes from my just personal experience growing up in the city. And like I just shared, like I have a very interesting dynamic in terms of my identity. And that to boot, I did grow up in a single parent home as well. And so for me, acceptance and belonging somewhere was something that I strive for and that I wanted. And I didn't grow up with any of my Métis culture. So my mom is Métis, and then my dad is Filipino. And I didn't grow up with my dad at all. So I was completely um, uh, disconnected from that side of my culture. And so for me, it was as I went through, it was honestly until I went to university when I went to Suntep, where I really found a place where in Suntep and with the friends and connections I made there, that I found was able to kind of start finding my footing of where I belonged and where I felt I belonged and of who I am. And so then as that grew, I saw the discrepancy within. I was like, man, there must be other kids that must feel the same thing. And now for me, I took that, that discomfort and the pain and the journey of trying to find that and want to be able to provide that for Indigenous youth while they're in school still in elementary or high school, instead of not having to wait till you're 25, 26. And obviously with identity, it will change, it will flow. But just to have those concrete core of knowing who you are, where you come from, because many of us have been disconnected from that. And so for me now, going into teaching my first year, I was blessed with an amazing opportunity to teach a Nahel language and land-based course at a St. Francis. And just to work with the kids every day, I see I see myself, I see my friends, I see my family, I see a lot of the people that I know in the students that I teach right now. And so for me, it's a lot more personable and it's a lot more real, because every day I know the battles that are going on, maybe at home or internally with our youth, in terms of helping them know who they are and helping them know that they can achieve things when they're trying to be the first ones to break that cycle for them. So for me, my passion comes from my own personal experience and just trying to do my part in supporting in any way I can for Indigenous youth, to not face those barriers and to help them overcome and continue to be resilient past that.
Yeah, I mean that's awesome. I mean we have so many young teachers that are coming into the game and really just trying to really wholeheartedly make a difference and trying to do the best that we can for kids in our schools. And that relating piece and making it relevant, there is because was is everybody's own experiences. Like there's no pan Indigenous or pan Métis person. There's no pan First Nation person that exists.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's experiences are different. Some of them are coming from two-parent homes. Some of our parents are being raised by their grandparents, or grandmother or grandfather, or their mother. Single-parent homes. And relating to that and really connecting to those kids is and bringing your own different variety of experiences is so important.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I had a really strong upbringing by an amazing woman. My grandmother raised me, but I was lucky because my father was always around as well and made sure that he made a point of always being there and doing his best to be around and instilling a really strong work ethic in myself and doing that. So I mean, this balance of that grandmother, that kunshi or that kukum understanding and that teaching, as well as the strong work ethic from my pops, bringing that kind of shaped my journey into and to becoming an educator in the work that I do. But really, one of the reasons why I started down this education journey was for me to be able to connect to my mushum, my late grandfather. My late mushum was uh, somebody that worked with Indigenous knowledge in Manitoba. He worked for the Manitoba Education Branch, sharing Indigenous knowledge throughout the Portage La Prairie, Winnipeg, Brandon, kind of all of that Interlakes area, sharing knowledge, sharing perspectives of Indigenous ways of knowing from the trap line that he learned from his ancestors and the Swampy Cree traditions. And never ever did I ever have the chance to have a conversation with my mushum and ask him, what he thought about education, what he thought was important for to learn in schools, what was valuable to that, for him to share. Never did I have that chance, but I believe that one day I'm going to be able to meet my grandfather, my mushum. He's going to greet me, and I'll be able to have those conversations later. And in the time being, he's going to be watching the work that I'm doing, and I want to be able to say I did everything I could for kids to attach themselves, to be proud of who they are, to be strong, to be mindful of Indigenous knowledge, to know that our knowledge systems exist well beyond books
Mm-hmm.
and is beyond the four walls of a classroom, that we can think differently. And that's kind of the driving force on the work that I've done. The path, that's kind of the where the passion piece comes from, and knowing that our ancestors, my younger cousin, my younger brother told me to do this really, really, really cool thing. One time I was listening to him speak, and he was talking to a room that, you know, it was about 50% full, this room. And he said, it doesn't matter the amount of people that are sitting in the seats right now, because this room is full. This room is absolutely full because our ancestors are here. They're witnessing what we're doing. And it is standing room only. And that with me. I think every time I get up to speak, every time that I'm going to do work in education, that our ancestors are witnessing the work that we're doing. They're witnessing the things that we're doing, and it's standing room only. And if we think about that, then we have to put our best foot forward every single time. So that's where the passion for this work is. That's kind of what why I'm doing this work with Think Indig, why I do the work that I do at the university, and just in general in terms of education and Indigenous education. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing. No, I can definitely relate to that. Even think reflecting on my first year teaching, just as some of the situations and the tough scenarios that you get in, and of just what some of our students are dealing with, and you as a person that you're teaching from your heart, and something that I've carried with me has been a teaching that I learned in Aotearoa when I journeyed to New Zealand. And it was the word they used to describe their male teachers, and it was a word called matua. And matua means teacher, it means parent, it means nurturer, it means protector. And so it's really a word that really describes, in terms of indigenous ways of knowing, what the role of a teacher is too. It's not just teaching A to Z and language and whatnot like that and math. That's one role, but you sometimes you're an uncle, sometimes you're a big brother, you're playing a lot of these roles, and so there, and especially with some of the levels of trauma and some of the difficult situations our students might be facing, I had to really I was so glad that I was able to spend time to pray in the summertime and dedicated time to really praying about the program and praying for the students ahead of time, because I look back now and I was like, man, how did I stay strong during that? And there was times in there where everything inside of me, when these kids, when they're going through these experiences, wanted I wanted to break down and be frustrated and mad and cry. But there was a spirit that kept me strong during those times, because they needed that. And I reflect on that, and just how it's just beautiful how everything has just flown. What I found is just when you're in that right space, when your heart is in the right space, and you're doing the best that you can, there's going to be, obviously there's going to be times where there's ups and downs, but being able to check in with, like you said, or for me anyways, big brothers that have had 20 years of experience, or who are just ahead of that journey, that are ahead of the journey for me. People that I can, hey, what do you think about this? Or, hey, what about this? And what do you just be able to check in and have other Indigenous educators that are down the path that I want to go down, and be able to ask questions. But at the same time, it's funny because being a first year teacher, like you said, you're all really passionate, you're on fire. I'm just like, change, 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 change. And it's funny because even I've had to learn, even trusting my leadership. I'm just like, okay, he has the same perspective I does, but he understands the system a little bit better than I do, because I'm just seeing everything like it's on fire because of our education system. But then they're just like, no, we see it too, man. But we're just trying to play this so we can take this step, but we're getting there. Or I'm just like, no, no, no. So that's probably been another one of the big things. But my spirit is definitely full, and being away from my students for now a month and a half it's tough, because you come a little family. We call ourselves the Nehia 9 family, and being away from them, it's definitely difficult. But it's a part of that, and to be able to have uh, that heart and that connectedness in terms of that ancestral um, mind. I love that because it keeps you in check, and it keeps you motivated, and try your best to stay mindful of that.
Yeah, for sure. You said a really cool thing. I think there's a lot of contrast between an indigenous worldview and our Western worldview in which we live and function every day. It's really dominated by colonization, everything that we've done, and one of the things that happens with us is that there's a conflict that occurs.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the major conflicts, I mean, you said it in what you were talking about, but one of the major conflicts that happens is that the way we look at things is different. For example, anybody that's ever worked with me, or anybody where I've been a leader of the school, or uh, I really trust, I really try my best to put as much trust as I can into the path that's laid before us. That that I believe that there's a path that's laid before us, and we take that opportunity if we so choose. And it's some people say it's going with the flow. Some people just kind of say it's this will happen in the when it's supposed to happen. This is meant to be this way. However that is, or whatever that means, or however that looks. Um, I really truly believe that. And even how this all worked out, even just how you and I, Curtis, have been working together, it just happened that way. You inboxed me that next morning and saying, "Hey, man, I want to be involved." And my first reply to you was like, "Yeah, man, we're doing this all for free, bro." And you're like, "I'm in, man. I'm in. This is so important. We need to get this out." And just everything that you've been able to do to uh, support our work has just been phenomenal, and just taking it to another level. And that's what I mean by just actually just rolling with it. And good. Some people need long range plans. Some people need make this uh, uh, tell me these people the day before, or at 10 o'clock, or at nighttime, and we'll just kind of make that roll,
Yeah.
because that I feel like is probably the way we function in our truest form, in our most decolonized form. It's not um, it's not winging it, or it's not any of that. It's just following through with the way it's meant to be. And I think I've functioned that way. I've lived that way through my educational career as best I can. I mean, you still need to plan for the future. You still need to make those plans, but taking into account that there is I guess, a supernatural kind of understanding that occurs, that is guiding our practices and our work, especially when we work with children. And trusting that is something that's hard and difficult for many people to do. Um, but you surround yourself with as many people that believe in you, um, the path becomes easier to take, and then we're able to do phenomenal things. So that's really been an amazing part of this journey here. Um, I did want to shift this. I know we try to keep into the little shorter time frame for people to kind of understand, but I did want to shift a little bit just into looking at just some of our past speakers, and just kind of some of the people that have been on the online classroom. Um, if you're just tuning in now and this is your first experience, this online classroom's blown up, man. It's hit national news in Canada. It's Curtis shared a video that we were picked up by a news broadcast system in Taiwan and Tokyo. That's crazy. I don't even know what they were saying about us, but we were on there, and it was super cool. So it's blown up. But just from your perspectives, and your turn in your journey as an educator, what are some of the things that really stuck with you about these online classrooms?
I think the biggest thing is just how many people have been willing and eager to share, especially with what's going on. Because as educators, there's obviously a lot of uneasiness and turmoil with transitioning to online. There's, a lot of our kids may not have access to technology, and now providing this platform, we've just had multiple, teachers and amazing educators that, and not even just educators, but just other people in all sorts of different fields that are willing to share their knowledge and experience for, like we said, that bigger purpose, bigger than them, that they didn't need a paycheck, or they didn't need a gig to get paid. They did it from the goodness of their heart. And I think that's what really touched me too, because we had some people that, if they really wanted to, they could go get big gigs, and they do that professionally, a lot of them. um, so for that, I think that's been huge. But one lesson in terms that has stood up, especially for this week, the first one was Patrick and Marissa talking about goal setting and envisioning things. And I think about that, and then I think about how you have that vision and you have that passion, and you could try to match those together with your work ethic, with your time, with your commitment, and then you hit that, and then you take into that next step of what comes next. And then you think of our lesson on Wednesday in terms of the 4 R's of respect, responsibility, relationship, and reciprocity. I believe the last one. Um, you trying to look at that, and like that's my pedagogy as a teacher in Indigenous education is just relationship. That's the first and foremost. If you get into natural Cree law, of Wakoto, and that's right there, and also in Michif as well, Métis and Cree, like that's the basis of it is relationship. So from that, you start building that up, because when there's true authentic relationship, the next step you'll see this respect among the students for you. And so one thing that I do, I'll just share personally, is that they don't call me Mr. Vinish, they call me Curtis, because I take that role and go down equally with them. So I'm not over them, but they still respect me as their teacher, just as much, because there's that authenticity there. And then, the responsibility of, okay, you do your job, I'm doing my job, and, I'm here for you, kind of thing. And then you take a look on Thursday, and I was really excited to have Corey Gray speak. I ran into him in Calgary about 2 years ago at a student energy conference, and he was the speaker there. And I'm a science nerd. I don't have the brains to do physics and astrophysics, but I sometimes think I do in terms of watching documentaries, and I try to ponder these things. But just to hear his experience and to be able to bring in the Blackfoot language into Western science at the forefront of science, because that's been one of the biggest discoveries, gravitational waves, in this last 10 years. So just to have him on here, and then obviously looking back, having Jeremy Thompson, that was really cool, because usually I'm cheering for that guy when he's playing lacrosse, and then to hear him, and then to hear actually some of the teachings on like some of the medicines as well. There's been so much. It's just been like, wow, this is what is feeding my soul and my spirit as I'm going on. And then to have the language with Sam, or the Michif language, to then having Court teaching about Métis, the role of the Métis, and then you continue that on to, yeah, we just had to, and then Joseph, he did an amazing lesson. We just have been super blessed in terms of the content. But yeah, no, it's been spectacular. Just the lessons that, and all the people that have been able to step up and are willing to share.
Yeah, for sure. I think Pat and Mar, they just hit it out of the park every time. And just listening to them, and the message to the youth, and some of the storytelling and the work that they're doing in schools, really inspiring, helping. I think what it does with all of these lessons that are coming forward there, I think what happens is that it sparks something definitely within me, to want to do a little bit more, or trying to figure out how to do this, or makes me think a little bit differently. And definitely every time that I listen to Patrick and Marissa, it's always that type of conversation that just sparks some different thinking. And you know, with the 4 R's, when I was teaching middle years, so my favorite thing to do is to teach middle years. I mean, they're crazy. They're crazy, grade 7 and 9. It's just sometimes they're insane, just to be like, what am I doing in this world? But It is the most amazing. It is the most amazing experience that could ever happen.
Mhm.
And every year at the end of the year, I'd ask my students to reflect on what their favorite part of the year was. And every year, without a doubt, it would always reflect back to the 4R units that we're doing, and definitely on relationships, because we would speak to healthy relationships and what that means within our communities. We'd
Mhm.
speak to boundaries and what that means. And a lot of students, sometimes that's their first lesson, or we don't understand exactly healthy boundaries and how to create healthy relationships, and just the fun activities that we would come up with these guys that are trying to be cool, and then they're not cool, and then they don't want to say what they want to say, and then they say it. It's such an interesting experience.
Sure.
And then Corey Gray, I mean, man, that was phenomenal.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just like watching it on, holy smokes, like first time in history. And man, we got a six Sakar, relative kind of right in the middle of it all, just
Mhm.
kind of being part of this history. And not only that, but incorporating the language of his people. I mean, that was absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah.
Just incorporating that knowledge, incorporating that, and making his mother a part of his work.
Mhm.
That's never been done.
Yeah.
There's no way that indigenous languages would have been part of that conversation if it wasn't for Corey Gray being in there. So he's groundbreaking,
Yeah.
and doing a lot of that cool stuff. So that was awesome. And again, just all of the lessons that people have been doing are just been phenomenal. Really good things. And just think that this all started just from a Facebook status that I wrote on my own personal Facebook page saying, look, we need to do something for this pandemic.
Yeah.
Silver lining, everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
There's a reason that this was meant to happen right now, whether that's for the earth and Mother Earth to clean herself, from the pollution that exists out there, whether it's meant for us to spend more time at home and to slow down a little bit, whatever that is, these things are meant to happen. And how we support each other and how we come together is just something that we do as Indigenous people. So
Mhm.
that's always an amazing thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm encouraged. I'm encouraged about this work that we're doing. I'm encouraged, and always happy to work with Curtis. Really, truly, just it's like a younger brother, man, and just kind of doing that work and being inspired to do that. And I'm excited for that. Um, just I'll let you do some closing comments, but I do want to announce the winners of our weekly contest.
Mhm.
And again, on Monday, I'll be asking more questions from these past three lessons. So make sure that you tune in. So the first winner that came in is Trina Laughlin. So Trina Laughlin, I'll be emailing you, and I'll be giving you that. So you're one of the first winners. The second one is Amanda Shelnut. Amanda, you'll be getting an email too. You won some Think Indigenous swag. Colleen Ronan, uh, you are also a winner of this swag. And then we get to Tyson Fetch and Lorna Iron. So you are the five winners of this. We did have a few people here that missed the deadline, but we only have five prizes that we're going to be giving out. And we're going to be sending you some swag and sending you some things for participating and just being engaged in Think and Dig. So, and the online classroom. So I'll just turn it over to Curtis. I want to say thank you to everybody that tunes in. Listen, I don't know who's watching, how many people are watching our video here, our little lunchtime decolonization, but I think it's pretty cool, and we're gonna have guests in the future and stuff. But turn it over to Curtis, and he can just do some closing comments.
Awesome. Thank you, Chris, and congrats to the winners of some merch and some prizes. And looking forward to next week. We are putting together our speakers list and our teachers list. And so if you are someone that would be interested, or you know someone that would be cool to have on or might be interested in our work, please give us a message, put their name in the comments, reach out to us. We try our best to keep up with our comments and our messages. Sometimes it's easier said than done. Looking forward to this podcast. We hope you enjoy it. We're going to take a look at the comments and kind of see how many people are interested of do we want to keep doing this? Do we want to, what else would you want to have? And as we go on, we're going to continue to provide guests that come in on the show to interview them, to get their views on Indigenous education, to get their views on decolonization, and to continue that conversation about what other work is being done and what we can continue to do. So going into next week and going into this weekend, we hope everyone has a safe weekend. We hope that you still make sure you wash your hands, practice social distancing, and we're almost out of this thing. We just got to follow the procedures and wait this thing out. And reach out to your family members and to your friends. Make sure that check up on them, show them love. This is a very stressful situation for some people, and we just need to make sure that we look after one another in a good spirit and in a good way. So Chris and I, in behalf of Think Indigenous, the team, and we want to thank you for joining us. I enjoyed this, and I'm sure Chris did too. And now we just can't wait to share and have more conversations and challenging different perspectives in terms of the guests we have on, and look forward to continuing the conversations in terms of thinking Indigenous. So have a great night, everybody. Stay safe, and we'll see you next Friday for our podcast. And next Monday, there'll be a lesson, 11 a.m. Central Standard Time. Take care, everyone.